social care at the right-leaning think tank Policy Exchange. Think tanks, the only tanks we've got anymore, apparently. And we need to buy some more. Where are we going to get our money from? And we've got, hello, Sean, and we've got Devin Galani, founder and chief executive of Policy in Practice, which helps people navigate the benefits system. Devin, good morning.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi. Sean Phillips, is this necessary? Give us some numbers.
Well, as Policy Exchange have said in a new report, we argue that our health and disability benefits system doesn't work fiscally. We look at the projected spend from the OBR technically in terms of the incentives fundamentally in the system or morally. And so what do we mean by that? Well, fiscally, if you look at the cost of both disability benefits, those benefits that support individuals with additional costs to manage a disability, and incapacity benefits, those that support people who are unable to work due to ill health. They've risen by 40% in real terms since 2013. The OBR, as I've mentioned, forecasting expenditure could reach up towards 100 billion, obviously a projection, but a very significant increase on the figures today. And in that scenario, we calculate that £1 in every £4 of income tax will be spent on health and disability benefits. That's equivalent to almost £1,500 per person in the UK. So that's the fiscal challenge. Technically, if you look at the way that the system has changed recently, there's a few areas that are particularly striking. So if you look at the number of people on universal credit who are placed into the so-called limited capability for work and work-related activity group, that's a group where there's no obligation to seek work or to prepare for it. In the past 5 years, the numbers have grown from just under 2 million to 2.5 million recipients. So there's been an increase of over a third. Fundamentally, in terms of the moral question, which is interesting, is that the system looks at what people have proved what they cannot do rather than what they can, and we think that there should be greater focus placed on engagement. And actually, just fundamentally, this arbitrary binary process where we say someone is eligible for a benefit, we make a cash transfer, yes or no, isn't the way we should be looking at this. We should be thinking much more holistically about the type of support that we provide for people. We should be connecting much more effectively to services that are going to support people, rather than the state discharging its duty by making a fiscal transfer and then effectively leaving it, as it were.
So there's a lot of not no you can't, but yes you can, stressing the positives of it and trying to encourage people to get into the workplace. Devin Galani, this is what Labour's for, isn't it? Helping people.
Yeah, helping people to get back. I'd certainly agree with that last point. I think we've got a very binary benefit system, which either says you're well enough to work or you're too sick to you're not able to work, and you're kind of left in that sort of space. And I think that's probably where we can see the biggest shift. I'd like to see changes to the system that change the flow of people onto disability benefits. As Sean said, we've had a huge increase since the pandemic. I think for a few different reasons. Firstly, you have had a pandemic. There are kind of health issues out there, but I do think also that some of the people who have ended up in that position is partly because of bad decisions in the benefit system a decade ago. There's a slight sense of deja vu. We were saying very similar things at the end of the last Labour government, at the start of the new coalition government 10 years ago, around let's focus on what people can do. The problem is the implementation hasn't really followed through on that at all.
Do you agree with the philosophy of it? It's about getting people back into the work is better for the taxpayer. Some pretty stark figures there from Sean, but actually it is better for the individual.
I think there's probably 2 points I'd make there. Well, the first one is it obviously is, and there's a lot of people on disability benefits who want to get back to work, and it can be better off in work because of some of the ways in which the system works. But there are also some reasons why the system pushes against that, because you're taking a risk. You're risking losing your disability benefits, but you're also risking dealing with what can be quite a punitive support system. So making that support available for people who do want to make those steps is good. At the same time, you've got a lot of people on disability benefits listening to the show going to be incredibly worried about what's going to happen to their income, who kind of see work as being something, work is genuinely for them, a long shot. Is quite far away. They've been out of work for a long time. They've got serious health issues. Perhaps they're in a place where the
so this could be a blunt instrument, couldn't it? It would be impossible to be forensic about this and to be detailed about this and take into account people's particular circumstances, which are so complex.
I think we have to take the time to get this right. That would be, I think, the biggest risk here.
I haven't got the time
about deja vu, But I mean, if you want to, I think the risk here is you've got a chancellor that wants that you've got a treasury that needs to make savings, feels like it needs to make savings in this parliamentary year, and you end up with kind of just cuts without taking into account people's individual circumstances. Now, the government says that isn't what they want to do. Practically, I think allowing the time to not have to do that is what I'd like to see from the government.
And a lot of charities have written this letter, including chief executives of Scope, Joseph Rowntree Foundation, Citizens Advice, MenCap, RNIB, Mind, the Trussell Trust, Sense, the National Autistic Society, Parkinson's UK, and they are extremely worried. And they're saying 900,000 children live in a household where someone receives sickness benefits through universal credit. So this will do nothing for child poverty. Are they right to be worried, Sean Phillips?
Well, I think in terms of the point that Devon was making around risk. I mean, I think unfortunately this conversation often does get reduced into something that feels quite crude. We talk about descriptors and the various activities that are scored in the assessments, for instance, and what we'll sort of trim in order to find these savings. Yes. And actually, I think we would like to see, a national conversation around what the future should look like, what the mechanisms really need to be to create a position where we do actually create that much more connected support, and actually that we use the system in a different way, that we use the assessment as a opportunity to be able to direct people to, in the first instance, support that actually the Department of Work and Pensions already provides. So Access to Work, which is a service which provides the service and indeed the aids to actually enable disabled people to enter employment, for instance. But we don't do that at all at the moment. And then we don't actually think, for instance, about how you could use the assessment process in a way that actually you can direct people towards more targeted support. So if it's a medical condition, we actually connect more effectively to the NHS, that we actually connect more effectively to wider services that are provided by the voluntary sector. So that's where we've got to get.
To sum it up, it's kind of too complex at the moment to make cuts anything but brutal and arbitrary. That's the fear. Let's have that